We welcome you back to the program. Lots going on, of course, and the meetings continue on each week here in our monthly meetings of the boards. Yesterday was the regular monthly meeting of 3rd Laguna Hills Mutuals Board. Mike Straziuso, president, joins us today. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Another long one. You had a long morning meeting. It went 4 hours plus. It seemed to be. It seemed to be longer than that. Let's see, 9:30 to 1 o'clock, 3.5 hours.
3 hours and 44 minutes.
To be exactly,
Yes.
to be exact there. So almost 4 hours.
Almost.
Yeah. And a lot of time was taken up on a few discussions. Other things moved along quite quickly. You folks had a special meeting on the 10th, and of course we were busy that afternoon covering the live meeting from Clubhouse 5, where United was having their special presentation over there on their proposed changes in the bylaws and occupancy agreement. So you were having a meeting in the boardroom at the same time, one to replace Dr. Paulus, who's left the board, and some nice things were said about him yesterday for his years of service. But then later in that meeting, you actually passed the gavel over to your attorney, Mr. Richardson, and he was able to comment on a letter that the board had received from another attorney. So we have the attorneys talking to the attorneys, a letter representing one of your neighbors, one of your constituents, making some charges, and Mr. Richardson was dealing with that.
Yes, he was. He did a very good job. He challenged the attorney who put no facts but accusations. And the meeting, that agenda item in the meeting was designated to bring forth evidence, and it was not forthcoming. And yet the board members insisted that those charges needed to be investigated because they were charges with no evidence. Hello.
And I understand that both the resident who had contacted the attorney and the attorney, neither of them were present at that meeting on the 10th.
That's correct. It was a hit and run. Making wild accusations, not only to 6 board members, but to PCM. PCM was accused of making contributions to the candidates from the previous 2 years.
Mm-hmm. In response to all of that, Mr. Richardson drafted a written response, a letter, and much discussion yesterday was, because that wasn't presented at the meeting, it came out after the meeting, should that be part of the minutes as you approved the minutes? And that was a kind of a lengthy discussion on yes or no, that should be part of our minutes from the meeting of the 10th.
Yes, it seemed to be a never-ending debate, and it was a non-issue. It was an issue of personal preference. Discussions are typically, technically, not part of minutes. Only actions are part of minutes. And yet, the common practice in our boards, secretaries will note who discussed and just a brief statement.
Right.
Well, it was a contest of wills, and it really was not that important, and yet it carried on and on with different points of view, gave people platforms to express their personal preference. When we have a qualified expert at the meeting giving us legal advice as to whether it is necessary, appropriate, required, or not required. And unfortunately, we have an element on the board who do not seem to be supportive of our experts' advice.
Bottom line, the result on that, is it or is it not part of the things that you approved as far as the minutes of that meeting?
It will be included.
Okay. Quite a bit of comments from audience members and even more so responses from your board members on other matters as well. This is always a chance for, with a controlled environment, it can sometimes become a debate, and that's, as chairman, you try and not have that happen by your rules of Robert's Rules of Order, which I know you've been attending some classes on that as well and employing those in an attempt to control the actions of the meeting there. So it's interesting to kind of watch that technique at work from up here as we watch you down there.
It is a challenge. There's, it's so simple, and yet only if you choose to abide by them. And if you don't, it's the chair's responsibility to point out that you don't happen to be following Roberts, and I don't use the term Roberts, but you are out of order.
Right.
And even at one point, the decision of the chair was challenged.
Right. Well, part of all that came up for discussion this last week. We announced it on Friday, and we actually showed it to you folks both on Saturday evening and Sunday evening at 5 o'clock here on Channel 6 in place of our message board for a half hour. Proposals for rules for the conduct of board meetings. And this is something that you'll actually formally be voting on at your September 18th meeting. But people that maybe didn't catch it on the weekend will be able to read those online. I understand they go on the community website, lagunawoodsvillage.com, and they can go under Third Mutual and find those proposed rules.
Yes, it's a real unique, I don't think it's been done before, where we've posted to comply with the 30-day notice. And this happens to be a change that requires the 30-day notice. And by posting it, rather than including it in a meeting, our meeting was the 21st, the next meeting is fewer than 30 days hence. So we posted it to qualify
Right.
for the September 18th
So by
meeting.
getting it on last weekend, you were able to meet that requirement there
Yes.
of the AB 512 law here in California. We all know that there's interrelationships between the boards of United, Third, and 50 and the Golden Rain Foundation, perhaps a little more formality now with 2 members of United as well as 2 members of your board will be attending or have been invited to attend the GRF executive sessions. And this is something that perhaps has always been available to board members, but formalized now. It's going to be a policy, as I understand it.
Yes, but you used the term invited. It is part of their bylaws now.
Uh-huh.
The bylaws are changed by the mutuals, not by GRF
Right.
board, okay? And GRF board has crossed their arms and said, you can change our bylaws, but you're still not invited. So we seem to be having a attorney-to-attorney contest about whether we will be allowed to comply with their bylaws or not.
So perhaps the invitation was a wrong word. Potential attendance, I guess, would be a better choice of words there, and that's still ongoing discussion on that one. Then, something else you talked about between the homeowner associations, United, Third, and 50, getting together on maybe a more formalized basis on maybe 4 times a year.
Yes, quarterly. The mutuals have so much in common, and yet we're not marching together, so to speak. And it will help us communicate what our intentions are and help us to be more uniform, not necessarily uniform, but in the overall sense.
Well, I know things like traffic rules and
Yes.
signage, we're trying to get equality and some level of conformity between United, Third, 50, GRF, so that the signage looks the same, the traffic rules are the same. So if you're driving in United don't have a different traffic law than you do over in Third. Am I in Third or am I in United? Can I go 25? No. Can I go 15? It's all going to be the same, at least as far as those kinds of things. Many years ago, this community was called something else, a name I'm actually not supposed to use on the air, and it's now called Laguna Woods Village. Well, now we have our homeowner association groups in the process of changing their name from United Laguna Hills Mutual to United Laguna Woods Mutual, and Third thinking about that as well.
Yes, we're thinking about it, and unfortunately, up until now, our attorneys have different points of view. So if we had had a joint meeting, maybe we would have had a coordinated effort.
Good reason for those meetings.
Yes, this in particular. One attorney is saying it's a simple exercise. Third Mutual attorney is saying, whoops, that will take CC&R changes and bylaw changes, and it'll have to be approved by the members, a mailing to 6,102 members. So that appears, couch your words, Mike, it appears that United is charging ahead and Third Mutual is taking another look at it.
You mentioned those 6,000 plus homes. A piece of mail they will be receiving in a few weeks will be a ballot to vote on new directors. Coming up next week will be the Meet the Candidates program. We do urge the folks to tune in. I believe yours is going to be on Monday.
Monday the
10
27th. Yes.
And we urge you folks to tune in and watch that live. There'll also be a couple of replays. This is a chance for you to get to know the candidates running for the board of Third Mutual. Well, one of the areas that took, again, some discussion yesterday was in the M&C area, maintenance and construction, possibility of maybe some ways changing the look of part of the community. Something that's gotten discussion on both sides of it is what they so-called pavers. My understanding is this is actually concrete that's stamped to look like individual bricks, but it's actually one solid piece of concrete, but they imprint it with a device so it looks like it's stone pavers.
Yes, it's amazing. Since this issue has come up, as I visit different malls, there are pavers everywhere. And it's amazing. You want to start a new business. There's apparently a great market for pavers. And we have those on the board who think that it would revitalize the look of our community. If I sound a little sarcastic, I apologize. It was purely intentional, though. The pavers, they passed a resolution calling them crosswalk pavers. Crosswalk pavers that we're going to place near the crosswalk is the proposal. And allocated $350,000 for revitalization, and we're going to use $100,000 for pavers. However, staff, as they progressed in carrying out that effort, discovered that the first 12 cul-de-sacs would require $130,000. Well, we have 115 cul-de-sacs in Third Mutual, and at $10,300 a piece, we're talking about $1.2 million approximately to do pavers. Once you pull up, you'll notice them, and then you never see them again. I've challenged people, where do we have pavers at the gates? I don't know. Next time you go through gate 9, pavers.
Take a look.
Yes.
Right.
But GRF had a proposal to do pavers at all 15 gates, and it was voted down.
Right.
And we're in a stalemate right now. It is not going forward yet.
All right. Lots of issues, lots of things being discussed in Third Mutual. If you want to catch that meeting, as I said, almost 4 hours, 3 hours and 40 minutes. Tomorrow at 1:30 will be the next replay of that meeting. And we will see you back here probably in between, but in September as well.
Always a pleasure. My compliments. You do such a terrific job.
Thank you, sir. Always nice to have you on the program. Good to have you with us today. And we'll be coming right back in 120 seconds with more. Stay with us.